In the vast, barren expanse where the sun scorched the earth and shadows offered little respite, a solitary wanderer named Darius pressed onward. His rugged attire bore the marks of countless journeys, and his eyes, though weary, held a spark of unyielding determination. As dusk painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Darius stumbled upon an unusual sight, a sleek, silver pod partially buried in the sand. Curiosity piqued, he approached cautiously, his hand instinctively resting on the hilt of his blade. The pod hissed open, releasing a plume of mist. From within emerged a figure unlike any he had ever seen. She stood tall, her skin a shimmering shade of cerulean, with eyes that glowed softly like twin moons. Her presence was both regal and ethereal. "Who are you?" Darius asked, his voice a mix of awe and caution. "I am Seraphina, Queen of the Astrolin," she replied, her voice melodic yet tinged with fatigue. "My vessel has crashed, and I am in need of assistance." Darius observed her, noting the grace in her movements despite evident exhaustion. "This land is treacherous, especially for one unfamiliar with its perils. Where do you seek to go?" Seraphina's gaze met his, a silent plea within them. "There is a sanctuary beyond this wasteland. I must reach it to ensure the safety of my people." A sense of duty stirred within Darius. He knew the terrain well, and the journey was fraught with dangers. Yet, something about Seraphina's presence compelled him to offer his aid. "Very well," he said, extending a hand. "I will guide you to this sanctuary." As they set forth, an unspoken understanding formed between them. The vastness of the wasteland stretched ahead, but together, they would face whatever challenges lay in wait. The first night under the canopy of stars was eerily silent. Darius and Seraphina rested beside a withered tree, its gnarled branches casting elongated shadows. The crackling of a modest fire provided the only sound, a fragile barrier against the encroaching darkness. As dawn approached, a distant rumble disturbed the tranquility. Darius's instincts flared. "We are not alone," he murmured, scanning the horizon. Emerging from the shimmering heat waves were figures clad in dark armor, their movements synchronized and purposeful. Mercenaries, no doubt, and their target was clear. "They seek me," Seraphina whispered, her expression a blend of fear and resolve. "They cannot be allowed to capture me." Darius nodded, formulating a plan swiftly. "We must move swiftly and use the terrain to our advantage." They pressed on, navigating through jagged ravines and over treacherous dunes. The mercenaries remained relentless, their pursuit a constant shadow. At a narrow canyon, Darius halted. "We can ambush them here," he suggested. "The passage is tight. Their numbers will count for little." Seraphina hesitated, her eyes reflecting concern. "I do not wish for bloodshed." "Nor do I," Darius replied gently. "But survival may demand it." As the mercenaries entered the canyon, Darius sprang into action. With calculated precision, he disarmed and incapacitated them, ensuring minimal harm. Seraphina watched, her respect for the human deepening. Once the threat was neutralized, they continued their journey. The bond between them grew, forged in the crucible of shared adversity. On the third day, as the sun reached its zenith, Darius and Seraphina sought refuge in a cavern adorned with luminescent crystals. The air inside was cool, a welcome reprieve from the relentless heat. As they rested, Seraphina turned to Darius, her expression contemplative. "You risk much for someone you scarcely know." "Why?" Darius met her gaze, sincerity evident in his eyes. "In these desolate lands, kindness is a rarity. If we do not help one another, what hope remains?" Moved by his words, Seraphina decided to share her truth. "My people, the Astrolin, are beings of peace. Our world was invaded, and I fled to seek allies. Those who pursue me wish to exploit our abilities for war." Darius listened intently, understanding the gravity of her mission. "Then we must ensure you reach the sanctuary. The fate of your people depends on it." A profound connection blossomed between them, transcending their differences. In the heart of the wasteland, Amidst the trials they faced, two souls found solace in each other's company. As night fell on the fourth day, ominous clouds gathered, and the wind howled with ferocity. A sandstorm loomed, threatening to engulf them. "We must find shelter," Darius shouted over the roaring wind. Through the swirling sands, they spotted an ancient ruin, a remnant of a bygone era. Taking refuge inside, they huddled together as the storm raged outside. In the confined space, the proximity heightened their awareness of each other. Seraphina's luminescent eyes met Darius's, and an unspoken emotion passed between them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. "For everything." Darius reached out, gently brushing a strand of her silken hair. "I would do it all again," he replied softly. In that moment, amidst the chaos of the tempest, they shared a tender embrace, finding warmth and comfort in each other's arms. Sources. You said. Right, Section 4. ChatGPT said. As night fell on the fourth day, ominous clouds gathered, and the wind howled with ferocity. A sandstorm loomed, threatening to engulf them. "We must find shelter," Darius shouted over the roaring wind. Through the swirling sands, they spotted an ancient ruin, a remnant of a bygone era. Taking refuge inside, they huddled together as the storm raged outside. In the confined space, the proximity heightened their awareness of each other. Seraphina's luminescent eyes met Darius's, and an unspoken emotion passed between them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. "For everything." Darius reached out, gently brushing a strand of her silken hair. "I would do it all again," he replied softly. In that moment, amidst the chaos of the tempest, they shared a tender embrace, finding warmth and comfort in each other's arms. With the storm's passing, the final leg of their journey lay ahead. The sanctuary was within reach, but danger still lurked. As they approached a narrow pass, a figure emerged, a man Darius recognized from his past. Kale, a mercenary with a reputation for treachery. "Darius," Kale sneered. "Always the hero. Hand over the alien, and I'll let you live." Darius's grip tightened on his weapon. "I cannot do that, Kale." A tense standoff ensued. Kale's men surrounded them, weapons drawn. The odds were grim. Seraphina stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "Enough," she declared. "I will not be the cause of more bloodshed." Kale smirked, thinking victory was his. But Seraphina raised her hands, and a radiant light emanated from her, disarming the mercenaries and rendering them immobile. Darius watched in awe as Seraphina's power manifested, her true strength revealed. "We must go," she urged, taking Darius's hand. Together, they fled, leaving the mercenaries incapacitated. The sanctuary was now within sight. As dawn broke on the fifth day, Darius and Seraphina arrived at the sanctuary, a hidden oasis amidst the barren wasteland. Lush greenery and crystal-clear waters greeted them, a stark contrast to the desolation they had traversed. Seraphina turned to Darius, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "Your courage and kindness have saved not just me, but my entire people." Darius smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "I'm glad I could help," he replied. "But what will you do now?" Seraphina's expression grew serious. "I must contact my people and inform them of our success," she said. "But there is something else I must tell you." Darius frowned. "What is it?" Seraphina took a deep breath. "The sanctuary is not just a place of safety," she said. "It is also a portal, a gateway to my world." Darius's eyes widened. "You mean, I could come with you?" Seraphina nodded. "Yes," she said. "But it is a one-way journey. Once you cross over, you can never return." Darius felt a surge of conflicting emotions. He had grown to care deeply for Seraphina, but the thought of leaving his world behind was daunting. Seraphina reached out and took his hand. "I know this is a difficult decision," she said gently. "But I want you to know that whatever you choose, I will always be grateful for what you've done." Darius looked into her luminous eyes and felt a sense of peace. He knew what he had to do. "I'll go with you," he said firmly. Seraphina smiled, and together they stepped through the portal, leaving the wasteland and Darius's old life behind. As they emerged into Seraphina's world, Darius was struck by its beauty. Towering spires of crystal rose into the sky, and strange, ethereal creatures flitted about. But as they ventured further, Darius began to notice something unsettling. The inhabitants of this world regarded him with cold, calculating eyes, and he overheard whispers of the human and the experiment. He turned to Seraphina, confusion and betrayal in his gaze. "What is this?" he demanded. Seraphina's expression was unreadable. "I'm sorry, Darius," she said quietly. "But we needed you. Your kind is the key to our survival." Before he could react, Darius felt a sharp pain in his neck, and darkness overtook him. When he awoke, he was confined in a sterile chamber, strange devices humming around him. Through a transparent wall, he saw Seraphina observing him, her expression distant. "You used me," he said bitterly. Seraphina's eyes flickered with something akin to regret. "It was necessary," she replied. "For both our species." As the reality of his situation sank in, Darius realized that his journey had led him not to a sanctuary, but to a prison, a pawn in a game he had never understood. And as the days turned into weeks, he could only wonder what fate awaited him in this alien world, so far from the wasteland he once called home.